Okay, let's unpack this. When you hear furry fandom, what comes to mind? For a lot of people, I think it's those bright, colorful animal costumes, maybe a big convention, lots of energy. And yeah, those images aren't wrong, but there's this fascinating economic side that often gets completely missed, which is that, well, a lot of furries are surprisingly affluent, much more so than you might find in your average hobby group. It kind of flips the script on the stereotypes, so it makes you wonder, right? Especially if you're outside the community, how are they affording all this? I mean, we're talking fursuits that can cost thousands, sometimes tens of thousands, frequent travel, maybe even internationally, for conventions, commissioning art all the time. So our mission today is really to dive into that. What's the mix here? Demographics, tech skills, careers, the community itself. What explains this surprising level of wealth?
Yeah, it's really interesting how public perception can just zero in on the most visible stuff,
Yeah.
the costumes, the conventions, and totally miss the complex social and especially economic structures underneath. So today we're going to try and connect this example to that bigger idea, how niche communities, ones built on passion, can sometimes create these unexpected pathways for like capital growth, career boosts, and understanding that, well, it gives you some interesting insights, doesn't it, about success stories outside the usual pathways. Useful stuff for you as a learner.
That's a great way to put it. And okay, one of the biggest pieces of the puzzle where it gets really interesting is just demographics. Like who actually makes up the furry community? It's maybe not the random cross-section people might assume.
It's exactly right. If you look at the surveys, the data we have on the fandom, you see this really consistent pattern. A surprisingly high number work in tech, engineering, software development, IT, science fields, high skill, often high paying jobs. And this isn't new. Think back to the early internet. BBSs, those first online art spots, forums. Furries were often right there, adopting early, building websites, playing with code for art, creating virtual spaces. These weren't just, messing around. They were building real practical skills way before coding boot camp was even a phrase. So they grew up comfortable with digital tools, networking online, figuring out new tech. Skills that, let's face it, pay really, really well today. That leads directly to more disposable income than average.
So, wow, if you're thinking about career paths or just how communities shape skills, the fandom itself was almost like this accidental training ground for really valuable digital skills way ahead of the curve, like an unintentional career booster. Can you give us a bit more on how that actually worked back then? Like specific examples, were people teaching each other on forums or?
Well, absolutely. Picture this maybe back in the late 90s, early 2000s. A young furry wants a website for their art, their character, their persona. There weren't easy templates then. So what do? You jump on a forum, ask questions. Someone teaches you basic HTML, maybe some CSS. You figure it out together. Or maybe collaborating on art projects. Someone knows Photoshop. Another knows early animation software. Maybe someone else is tinkering with game engines. It was very much a self-taught, peer-to-peer learning environment, driven by passion,
Yeah.
wanting to create things related to the fandom. So yeah, a whole generation kind of skill stacked without even realizing it. They entered the workforce with this solid base in digital literacy, tech skills. Often self-taught, driven by fun, but boom, suddenly very valuable in the job market. It's a cool link between hobby and career.
That digital fluency. Yeah, it's not just history, it's foundational. And it links straight into how the community can afford to, well, participate so actively. Because, let's be real, being an active furry isn't exactly a cheap hobby, is it? Those high-paying tech jobs definitely help fund what can be a pretty significant financial commitment.
Oh yeah, the costs are substantial, way more than people often guess. Let's start with the big one, fursuits.
So,
A good quality full body suit, the kind you see at cons, letting people really embody their character. You're looking at minimum maybe $2,000,
yeah.
but easily $5,000, $8,000, even up to $15,000 or more for really complex, high-end artistic ones. Depends on the maker, the features, even partials, just a head, paws, tail that's still often running into the thousands.
And what drives that price? It's not just like buying a costume off the rack.
Right.
What's involved?
No, not at all. It's skilled artistry and specialized materials. Think custom-dyed faux fur, sometimes imported. Resin casting for heads, claws, teeth. Intricate foam sculpting. Maybe cooling fans built in, articulated jaws, LED eyes. These are bespoke, wearable sculptures, really. Hand-built by artisans, many of whom are furries themselves. The time involved, hundreds of hours for one suit, designing, sculpting, patterning, sewing, airbrushing. It's incredibly labor-intensive, a real craft. And like you said, it doesn't stop there. Add in convention costs, travel flights, gas, hotels, often for several nights, the convention registration fee itself, Lots of furries hit multiple cons a year, sometimes traveling across the country or even internationally. Those trips add up fast. We're talking costs that can rival a nice vacation package, plus the ongoing stuff. Commissioning art is huge, getting digital drawings or paintings of your persona. Supporting free musicians, writers, there's a real culture of patronage. People with good incomes are genuinely happy to support the artists and creators within the community. It keeps money flowing inside the fandom.
Right. So it's not just a one-time buy-in, like, say, getting a guitar. It's this continuous, significant investment. You can really see how that points to a certain level of financial capacity for many participants and a strong commitment to supporting the community's creators. But okay, it's not just about spending money. It's also about earning it, growing professionally. And that brings us to another angle people often miss. The fandom as a networking hub, a pretty powerful one, actually. More than just socializing, it seems like it can be a real professional launchpad for some.
Absolutely. This is a really key part of the picture. It's not just hanging out, it's often active collaboration. Because the fandom draws so many people with skills, tech, art, writing, engineering, it just naturally becomes this space where professional connections happen. Think about it. You're at a local furry meet, talking about maybe 3D printing for fursuit parts. The person you're talking to turns out to be a senior engineer at a tech company who's looking for someone with exactly your skill set. Or maybe two artists meet at a con, admire each other's work, and decide to start a small indie game studio together. It happens. These are low-pressure settings built around shared interest where you can find talent, find collaborators, find mentors, even find jobs, almost organically. And it gets more formal, too. Go to a big convention like Anthrocon or Midwest Fur Fest. You'll see panels on like advanced animation techniques, coding for games, running a small business as an artist, legal stuff like copyright for creators. People share expertise, promote their services, find clients, form partnerships, all within this trusted community context. It definitely blurs the line between hobby and professional development. You don't see that quite as intensely in many other fandoms.
So that persona, that character, it's not just for fun. It can actually be part of your professional identity in a weird way, like a unique calling card that helps you build connections and maybe even your career. That's a powerful side effect of just finding your tribe. And you mentioned demographics earlier. There's this generational thing here too, right? It's not just older folks with settled careers. Younger generations seem to be contributing to this economic picture in their own way.
Yeah, definitely. You've got younger millennials, Gen Z furries, many who came of age right when the digital economy was exploding. They might have skills in programming, sure, but also streaming, social media management, digital marketing, content creation, fields that didn't really exist in the same way 20 years ago, but could be very lucrative now. So while some fandoms might skew younger and maybe more financially precarious, the furry fandom has this interesting mix. You have the established professionals, maybe 30s, 40s with solid careers, but you also have younger folks finding success in these newer digital industries. So it's not just one age group driving the affluence. And there's another layer related to lifestyle, perhaps. The furry fandom has a significantly higher proportion of LGBTQ plus individuals than the general population. And historically, or sometimes by choice, this can mean different life paths. Maybe not following the traditional model of marriage and kids or delaying it. This often translates, practically speaking, into fewer dependents, lower household running costs for some individuals, which frees up more disposable income. Money that can then be directed towards their passion, towards the fandom, without some of the financial pressures others might face, is a contributing factor to why some can invest so much in the hobby.
That makes sense. So it's like this convergence. You've got the in-demand skills, often tech-related. You've got the networking environment that helps leverage those skills. And then for some, you also have maybe more financial autonomy or flexibility because of different lifestyle choices. It all kind of stacks up to create this community with, yeah, surprising economic clout. And the thing that really seems to tie it all together that makes it so unique is how the money moves inside the community. It sounds like this fascinating, almost self-contained micro economy.
That's a perfect way to describe it. Largely self-sustaining. Furries commission art from other furries. They pay furry artists to make their fursuits. They buy music from furry musicians. They support furry writers on platforms like Patreon. This is really different from, say, being a fan of Star Wars or Marvel. In those cases, most of the money you spend on merch, movies, games flows out, upwards, to massive corporations. In the furry fandom, a huge chunk of the money stays circulating within the community. Patron to artist, creator to creator. Let's walk through an example. Say Fenris, a software engineer, makes good money. She spends a few $100s commissioning a beautiful digital painting of her wolf character from Sky, an artist she found online who's also a furry. Now, Sky uses that money. Maybe she buys a new drawing tablet from a small online store run by another furry. Maybe she uses it to fund her trip to a convention where she hopes to sell more art. At the convention, maybe Sky buys a cool custom tail from a fursuit maker. There. That maker then uses the income. You see the cycle. The money keeps moving, supporting other creators, enabling more participation, funding more projects within the fandom itself. It doesn't just leak out immediately to Amazon or Disney. That internal circulation makes the community feel and actually be more economically vibrant than ones where cash mostly flows outwards.
Wow, yeah. That's a really powerful dynamic, isn't it? Keeping the wealth internal like that. It directly supports the people creating the culture, the art, the suits, everything. It fuels the whole creative engine. Very different. Okay, but we need to add some nuance here, because hearing all this, you might think every single furry is wealthy, and that's not quite the picture, is it? So what does this all mean in terms of averages versus exceptions?
Right, that's a crucial point. The perception of wealth doesn't mean everyone shares in it equally. So why does the wealthy furry idea stick? It mostly comes down to visibility. Think about it. What are the most visible, iconic parts of the fandom to outsiders? It's often the big, expensive stuff. The $10,000 fursuit parading at a convention. The person posting photos from their third international furry event that year. Those things grab attention. They're memorable. They're the luxury cars of the fandom, like I said before. You notice them. And it leads people to assume, maybe subconsciously, that most furries live that kind of high-investment lifestyle. But the reality is much more like, well, regular society. It's a spectrum. You have loads of fans who are budget conscious. Maybe they enjoy the community online, they draw their own art, write fan fiction, participate in free role-playing groups. Their financial investment might be minimal. And then you have the affluent end, treating it like a serious, expensive hobby, commissioning top-tier suits, collecting art, traveling extensively. But because the most iconic elements, the things people recognize as furry, tend to be the expensive ones, that stereotype of wealth persists, even if it's not the reality for every single person in the community.
Gotcha. So it's not a universal truth applying to everyone, but it is a significant trend, driven by these visible peaks of investment and underpinned by that whole economic engine we've been talking about, the tech skills, the networking, the internal economy. You just understand the dynamics better now.
Wow, okay. What a fascinating deep dive. We really went from a simple question about, how do they afford the costumes, to uncovering this whole ecosystem. We've seen the link to tech and creative industries, how the fandom attracts and maybe even nurtures those skills. We looked at the real costs involved, that culture of patronage keeping money inside, and the surprising networking aspect that can actually boost careers. It turns a hobby into something more.
Exactly. And if you zoom out, connect it to the bigger picture, it really pushes you to look past surface appearances with any group, doesn't it? It shows how a shared passion, when it intersects with valuable skills in this kind of internally economic structure, can create these really unexpected routes to financial stability, career growth, maybe even real affluence. It's just a great reminder that communities are usually way more complex economically and socially than they look from the outside. You got to dig deeper than just the spectacle.
So here's something to think about for you, the listener. Next time you come across a community that seems niche, maybe a bit quirky, online or off, ask yourself, what unseen structures might be underneath? Are there specific demographics at play? Is there an internal economy? Are there hidden networking benefits? What other communities might be fostering these kinds of unexpected financial or career advantages for their members that maybe we just haven't done a deep dive into yet? Something to chew on.